Yeah, okay.
Previous session we discussed about update manager installation, and we are held up with adding identity source. Why identity source is required in the sense as soon as the installation completes, vCenter server installation, we need make a single sign-on concept. A single sign-on concept in the sense whenever we complete vCenter server management console, it is going to manage independent user management. That is, we log in as administrator at vSphere.local. We can create users for the vCenter servers to log in this particular vCenter console. But with to use local admin credentials, that is whatever the domain AD objects are available, AD users are available. How to use that AD users to access this vCenter server? To perform that, what we need to do is we need to add an identity source on vCenter server management so that we can use domain credentials to access this vCenter server. How to do that? We need to connect web client to perform this action. This adding an identity source option is not available through VC client. So to do that, we need to connect to web client. We already connected, and go to home tab. Under home tab, there is a tab called administration. Click on administration. Under administration, under single sign-on, configuration tab. Click on configuration tab under single sign-on. So under this, what we are going to do, there are different options are available. What we are going to do is we are going to create identity source. Identity source, there is an option policies and identity sources. Click on identity sources. Here by default, local server and the respective vSphere local. vSphere local is nothing but a vCenter server user management. What is vCenter server? vCenter server, whatever the users we can create on local server where we install on top of vCenter server, we install this vCenter server management console. So that local user management is available to give the permission. In addition to that, by default, vCenter server having an individual user management, that is vSphere.local. We can create a users. To create users also, we have to connect web client to create a users on vSphere vCenter server user management. This option is not available on VC client. So by default, we can use even local user management on respective server, local users and local groups on Windows Server, wherever we install this particular vCenter management console. We can use local users also. But the concept is we need to use domain credentials as a single sign-on. The domain credentials we are going to use to log into the each and every server. The same credentials we should use for this vCenter server access also. So that's what we are going to do. What we are going to do, we are going to integrate Active Directory. Whatever the domain organization Active Directory, we are going to add that Active Directory as an identity source for this particular vCenter server. How to do that? We connected to web client under say, home administration tab. Under administration tab, single sign-on. Under single sign-on, configuration. Under configuration, we click on identity sources. There is a tab plus mark. Click on plus. So add an identity source. What type of identity sources we can add to this vCenter server management? Active Directory, integrated Windows authentication. That's what we are going to do that. Other than that, there are three more options are available. Active Directory as an LDAP server, Open LDAP. If any kind of LDAP we can integrate, or local OS. So what we are going to do, Intention is to add Active Directory, whatever the domain credentials we are going to use, whatever the domain we are going to use, we are going to add that Active Directory to this particular vCenter server. Select the first one option, Active Directory. So whatever the domain is available, by default it is going to detect, because we added the server to respect to domain controller before installing vCenter Server Management Console. So the same domain is going to come over here. If you want to add a different domain, we need to mention the different domain. So what it is going to use machine account. The use machine account in the sense you can mention separate account to add this identity source, but we log in the servers as an administrator account. We complete the installation as an administrator with the domain account. So we'll proceed with use machine account. So it is going to add that identity source. Click OK. Use the mouse. Okay. Click OK. So we added, completed the Active Directory integration with this particular domain. See, whatever the domain controller we added as an identity source, our lab domain controller added as an identity source. Now, whatever the users are available, now until this particular time, we log in this particular vCenter server as an administrator as vSphere.local. That is vCenter server user, domain user, administrative user. Now, from now onwards, I can add permissions domain users to access this vCenter server. Okay, this is the identity source. As soon as you complete the vCenter server installation, this step we need to perform, because we need to use the domain credentials as part of single sign-on. We have to use domain credentials to access any kind of permission, any kind of tool. So that's the reason we install vCenter Server Management. For that vCenter Server Management, we added an Active Directory as an identity source. Now, come back to the VC client. Before coming back to the VC client, just be on the same page. Be on the same page. See here, we added an identity source. How to create users on a local vCenter Server User Management has a user management, right? Where do we need to? There is under single sign-on, there is a users and groups option is there. If you want to create any new user on this vCenter server users management, we can create here from web client only. We cannot create users on by using VC client. How to create a users on vCenter server management, user management. Under single sign-on, there is a users and groups. Click on users and groups. Here I can create a users. If you want to create any users, I can create users. vSphere.local. See here, domain. What is the domain? vSphere.local. I can create users. I can add permissions. Currently, what we are using, administrator. Only one user is there, administrator. Remaining other three users are default users. We are not going to do any action in here. If you want to create a local user in the sense for management console, local user management. I can create a user here, for example, user one. So how do I need to connect access user one at the rate vSphere.local. Now I added as a Active Directory, I'm going to use a single sign-on concept. One user to log in vCenter, I can log in, we use the same user to RDP to the server, to access the file servers, everything I can do with a single sign-on, that is domain credentials. If I create a user here, I need to use that user only for this vCenter. I cannot use this user to RDP to any server to access any file server. The single sign-on concept is not going to come into picture. So what the single sign-on concept? I can use single credentials to access all my environment. Entire my environment, I should be in a position to use. That's the purpose. We added a domain, our local domain added as an identity source to vCenter server management. Okay. Now connect to vCenter through VC client. This is a part where we are going to use what are the options are available in VC client. Now, first time, what we need to do, I haven't provided any permission. Now, what are the domain you have? For example, try to with the domain, domain/administrator, domain, what are the domain/administrator? Just see, am I able to gain access or not? Just what I did, I added an identity source domain control, but I haven't provided a permission yet. How to provide permission, we are going to see. Let's see, am I able to access this vCenter server with my domain credentials or not? From now onwards, we are going to configure vCenter server. What are the options available under vCenter server? Or how to explore? What are the options if I connect VC client to individual ESXi host? What are the options if we connect to vCenter server? See, what is the error we are getting here? The vSphere client could not connect to. You do not have permission to log in. That in the sense, I just added an integrated Active Directory integration to the vCenter server management, but I need to provide a permissions on vCenter server management to perform actions. So how to do that? For first, I need to log in as administrator at vSphere.local and I need to provide permissions. Click OK. Login as administrator at vSphere.local. What I'm going to do is the first most important on the vCenter server, as soon as we complete the vCenter server installation, we are going to add an identity source. That is the first step. How to do that? We need to connect web client. We completed that step. Then we are going to provide permission. Whatever the domain users you want to add a permission, we are going to do that. How to do that? What are the vCenter server we connected here? There is an option under selecting permission tab is there. Permission tab. Click on permission tab and we are going to add here. Right click and open place. Add permission. I'm going to add a domain user to this particular vCenter server. How to do that? Click on add. Under domain, we need to drop down and select my domain. Without adding Active Directory integration, I'm not going to get this domain controller over here. As I added identity source, that's the reason I'm getting this domain here. Select the domain and select administrator. There is administrator user ID, right? Whatever the user we are going to provide, we are going to do that action. Add, click on add. Yes, click OK. See here, before proceeding further, there is a tab, assign roles, drop down assign roles. I'm going to explain this later. Just I'm going to provide a initial permission. So select administrator. I'm going to add a user to perform to control entire my vCenter server management console. To do that, that user should have an administrator privileges. Even the administrator is a domain administrator doesn't mean that it is going to have a full control on my vCenter server management. I need to provide permission again on vCenter server management. That's the reason I am choosing an administrator domain user, and I'm going to provide administrator role for this particular vCenter server. So selected an user, and I'm going to assign a role, what that user is going to perform on this vCenter server. So I'm going to provide administrator. This permissions I'm going to explain in vCenter server management exploring options again. No need to worry. Okay, just I'm going to show you the first initial step. I'm going to provide one user and providing full permissions on this particular vCenter server. Click OK. Now close this session and log in with the domain that due to this vCenter. I provided a permission. So what permission I provided? See here, the domain plus administrator. What is the role? Administrator role on this particular vCenter server management. So close this session, log in this vCenter again, come back and connect to this vCenter server with domain credentials. Previously, what error we received? You do not have permission. Now I'm able to log in with my domain credentials. Let's give a try. Domain/administrator and provide the password. Now I should be able to log into this domain administrator domain credential because I provided a permission. So what is important, as soon as you complete the installation, it is must and should, you should remember this administrator at vSphere.local. That is a supreme administrator for this vCenter server management. Without log into that particular user, you cannot perform any action on this vCenter server. Okay, how did we add identity source? We need to connect web client with which what user we connected with the administrator at vSphere.local. Okay, that is a supreme user. For administrative task or any action, we have to use that administrator at vSphere.local. So that password should be kept aside and safe side to perform any critical activity, forgetting permission issues or anything. So that administrator at vSphere.local is a supreme user. So you need to remember that password and keep it aside or document what is the password and all those details. Now we are connected to vCenter server management console. Now it's the time to configure, it's time to do all options, exploring the different options, what are the options are available. Now this vCenter server is how to manage. As we discussed in the previous sessions, the vCenter server management is a console wherein we can use, manage a number of ESXi hosts and associated VMs. So to manage, what are the actions we are going to do? First, this particular, whatever the vCenter server, it is visible here. This vCenter server is, we call it as a root hierarchy, root top object in a hierarchy position that we call it as a top object. If you right click on this particular object, go to click on home, click on home. These are the different options. What are the options? There are different inventory options. What is the different inventory options? Host and clusters. Host and clusters in the sense, if I want to see ESXi host and clusters information, I need to choose host and clusters. There is another inventory option. What is that? VM and templates. It is not going to show ESXi host. It is going to show only VM and templates. And the next one is data stores. We know what is a data store. It is going to list only data stores which are connected to this vCenter server. Okay. And the fourth one is networking. These all four options, what are the under inventory? Under inventory, there are four options. We can choose if you want to access ESXi host, we have to go to ESXi host and cluster option. If you want to VMs only, we have to choose VM and templates. If you want to only data stores view, I can click on data stores and data store clusters. And if you want to view only networking, I can use networking tab. Right now, how it is a plain object, plain inventory. There is no, it is a plain inventory. The database is ready to add ESXi host. If I add ESXi host only, the VMs are going to come into picture. If I add ESXi host only, whatever the data stores are assigned to that particular ESXi host, those data stores are visible. Can I create a data store here in vCenter? Can I create VM without ESXi host? No. Here, vCenter server management is just a management console. As soon as you add ESXi host, then it is going to come into picture. Host will be there, and whatever the VMs are created on that respective host, that VMs will be available. Whatever the data stores we created on this ESXi host, those data store visibility is possible. Whatever the networking where we are creating networking on ESXi host. Okay, so all these options are going to come as soon as we add a ESXi host to this vCenter server. Okay, until that, whatever the option you choose, it is a blank. Okay, next, administration task. Administration, what is administrations available? Roles. I can create roles, I can add roles, I can manage roles, but I cannot create users from this particular VC client console. To create users, to manage users, where I need to go? I need to connect web client to do all user creation management, adding an identity source, everything I need to manage from web client. Here under administration, only roles. Roles in the sense, what role that particular user should have that we can manage under this role concept. Sessions. What is the sessions? What is the sessions? Sessions is nothing but whatever the sessions you connected, who are all connected to this vCenter server. Who are all connected to this vCenter server. I can get the information from this session tab. Okay. And the next one is licensing. Licensing in the sense what license this vCenter server has, and at the same time, what licenses we are having for the ESXi host. All those information will be available under licensing. Okay, system logs. The system logs is going to provide what are the logs are available for vCenter server to view those. vCenter server settings. Default settings, what is a DB, what is a DB retention, all those things. We are going to explore all these options, just later topics. What are the topic is going to come into picture, we are going to discuss. Just I'm going to show you what are the options are available under vCenter Server Management Console. Okay. This vCenter Solution Manager, different solutions. If you are going to add any solution to this vCenter server, we can do that. Storage providers, there is other API, networking syslog collector, what is a syslog connector, what are the logs we need to maintain, all those information available. Here, tasks, events, maps, what is the maps, how the ESXi host connected one to other, how the network is connected to other, all those things. Host profiles. This is one more important, very useful feature, host profiles. I'm going to cover this as well. Host profiles, how to do that, what is the advantage, so we are going to get. Configuration specification manager. This is a separate configuration manager, specification manager. Whenever we required, we can do that. What are the options are available? First, we need to understand most of the troubleshooting, most of the administration under VM via VC management. We are going to manage as part of platform support. We are going to manage VMs, Linux VM or Windows VM, all of those things. Who are working on a vCenter administrator, VMware administrator. If you have administrator privileges, you are going to get all these privileges. You can do all these actions. If you have a certain privileges, you are restricted to perform only certain actions. You are not allowed to do all these options. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add a ESXi host to start with. Now, before starting add an ESXi host, go to Click on Host and Clusters Inventory tab. Now, what is a hierarchy? I need to add ESXi host. Right-click on the vCenter server, the top object in the hierarchy position. What are the options are available? See here, as soon as you click it, what options am I able to add an ESXi host here? What are the options are available? I need to follow certain objects creation first before adding an ESXi host. Am I getting an option to add ESXi host? First, what I need to do is I need to create a data center. Data center in the sense, on a vCenter, which building going to maintain. If I'm going to maintain only one office, I'm going to create office name. If I'm going to maintain this vCenter to manage Hyderabad location, Bangalore location, and all those things, I'm going to create a data center. If I'm going to maintain 3 data centers within the same premises, building 1, building 2, or building 3. In another case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to maintain this vCenter for my one particular location. For example, data center is there in Hyderabad. I'm going to create a new data center. What is data center? The option is there background. Click on open place. See here, welcome to vCenter server. What is the first option? Step 1, create a data store, create a data center. What is the first option? Create a data center. See here, create a data center. What is vCenter server? We can understand. We know that what is vCenter server, what purpose we are going to do this, all those things. See here, if you see graphical representation, what is this? It is a client desktop. Okay, client desktop. I'm going to connect to the server. What server it is? This is a vCenter server. Okay, this is a vCenter server. From client desktop, I'm going to connect vCenter server. From the vCenter server, I'm going to manage host, ESXi host. I can manage all ESXi hosts together. If I'm able to manage ESXi host, I'm able to definitely manage virtual machines on top of it. What are the virtual machines are available? Okay, this is a hierarchy. So what I need to do first step, I need to create a data center. So right click on vCenter server and create a data center. Give the name as Hyderabad, just for understanding. Right click on vCenter server, new data center. Yes, you name it anything, Hyderabad or Mumbai or Bangalore or India, whatever it may be. Okay, Hyderabad. Now my data center is ready. Now what option I'm going to get? Let's see what I'm going to get. If I right click on vCenter server, the top object, I'm not going to get an option to add ESXi host. Now data center is created. Under data center, if you right click on data center, now select a data center. For each object, you are going to option get started. See here, what is the option? Create a data center is over. Now, what is a data center? You can understand. Now, next step is add a host or add a cluster, create a cluster. Okay, right click on this Hyderabad, that is a data center. You can see the representation icon. What are the options are going to come over here? I can create a cluster. I can add a ESXi host. What is a cluster? If I want to manage a cluster, if I want to group of ESXi host, I need to create a cluster. Okay, we'll create a cluster later. Just create a cluster for this standby purpose and to understand what is a cluster. Select a cluster, new cluster, name it as a production. There are different clusters we are going to manage: the production servers, development servers, test servers. Okay, DB servers cluster, different application clusters according to organization requirement. Okay, this is a cluster. What is a cluster features? I'm going to cover later topic. Just I'm going to create a cluster just now purpose. Later I'm going to discuss what is a cluster, what is the purpose of cluster. Just click next and don't choose any option. Just click next. Finish. Next. We are going to see all these features in next sessions. What is this and all those things? What's the cluster purpose? I'm just going to show you what are the options are going to come. You just click finish. It is going to create a cluster. Now, under Hyderabad data center, I created a cluster name called production. It's still in progress. Once it is created, it is going to come. See here, the symbol representation. If you see the symbol representation, one is showing as a data center, is showing as a building. Under that, it is a cluster created. If you choose that object, you can get some information about that object. Select the cluster. I'm calling as a cluster. If you don't know what is this, you can select that and see under getting started what is a cluster. Okay. So if you right click on the cluster, you can get an option to add ESXi host. I can add ESXi host under directly a data center. I can add ESXi host under a cluster. Anything can be possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a ESXi host under the cluster. This is a hierarchy. How to follow this hierarchy in the sense, first vCenter server, underneath it is going to come the data center. Without creating data center, I am not going to get an option to add a ESXi host or create a cluster. So we should understand this hierarchy. What is the topest object? Under topest object, I'm going to get an option data center. Once data center is created, I can create a cluster, I can add an ESXi host. Now, created a cluster is over, I'm going to add ESXi host. We have two ESXi hosts are available. I'm going to add those two ESXi hosts and see what are options I'm going to get. Select add host. So we have physical server ESXi hosts are available. So we are going to add those ESXi hosts to this vCenter server. One of the ESXi host is there. What is that ESXi host name? Lab host 1. Lab host 1. You can give the name. If the DNS record is created, we can use the name to add the host. If the name is not available, we can use IP address to add the ESXi host. As it is a lab environment, DNS is already created and everything is ready. So I'm going to add lab ESXi1. If you have the domain credentials, you can use the domain credentials. Otherwise, you can provide. So username root and password is. While adding host, we need to use only root credentials. It won't accept any other credentials. Click next. This is the certificate. It is going to add thumbprint. So click as. Click next. If you have a license, we can add the license here. Otherwise, you click next. Now, what is this lockdown mode? Enable lockdown mode in the sense, what it is going to give an option, even if you have a root credentials, okay, even if you have root credentials, what you are going to do, you can directly connect ESXi host, okay? If you enable this lockdown mode, you are not in a position to connect directly to the ESXi host. What it is going to restrict, it is going to restrict only through whatever the actions you are going to perform. You are going to perform action through vCenter server only. That is a lockdown option, lockdown mode option. Enable lockdown mode in the sense, whatever the actions you are going to perform on ESXi host, you need to perform through vCenter server management only. It is a kind of security feature. Even if you know root password, it is not going to allow you to connect directly to ESXi host. That is a lockdown mode. As of now, we are not going to enable this option. Click next. Yes, finish. What are the data sources are available? What are the VMs are available? Everything is going to add here. Under the same cluster, I'm going to add one more ESXi host. We have two ESXi hosts. I'm going to add two ESXi hosts over here. It is going to add the ESXi host, expand this production cluster. What is it? It is going to come over here. You need to understand this symbol representation, how the data center is looking like, how the ESXi host is looking like, okay, how the cluster is looking like, okay. Meanwhile, add another ESXi host also. Right click on this cluster, add ESXi host, second ESXi host. Proceed with the same feature, lab ESXi2. Yes. Properly enter username password. It is permission that user is not entered properly. We need to enter root user as a root and password as a root password. What are the password we set during the installation? The same password we need to set here. While adding the ESXi host, we should know the root username and root password to add the ESXi host. Next, if any VMs are there, it is going to show over here what are the VMs are available on this ESXi host, and proceed next to there is no license availability. We are going to work without license. Okay, click next. Finish. Now we are done with adding ESXi host. What are the ESXi hosts are available? We can see here. We successfully added an ESXi host. If you want to know what is that object, select that object. Select a lab ESXi1. Under getting started, you are going to get an option. You should know if you are not sure what is that object, it is going to provide information. What is the host? Okay, you can understand clearly what is see in picture diagram also. It is going to clearly understand, clearly represents in this, in both places, in web client also, in VC client also. It is going to provide a clear information. If you are not sure what is that object, you can understand under this particular option, getting started. Under this getting started, you are going to get information what is getting started and what is that information. And see here, out of this entire picture, it is what it is highlighted. It is talking about this particular host. See, it is highlighted. So what is a host? Host is nothing but to host virtual machines. Okay. So that's the reason it is showing. Now we are ready to explore other options. What are the other options are available? We are going to explore. We successfully added the whatever the ESXi hosts are available. We are going to explore the different options. Okay. Right click on the ESXi host. See, the options are different compared to if you connect individual ESXi host. What are the options you are going to get? And at the same ESXi host, if you are accessing from vCenter server, what are the options you are going to get here? There are different options are going to come out here compared to if you connect individual ESXi host. See, we right click on the ESXi host, same ESXi host. What are the options are going to come over here? If you go to individual ESXi host, go to connect individual VC client, which are connected to lab 2. Yes, first phase. Right click on this ESXi host. Right click on the ESXi host. Ignore. Yes. Right click on the ESXi host. See here, the way of options, here only 5 or 6 options. If you right click same on same ESXi host under vCenter server, there are different options are going to come over here. Okay, so the features, what are the features, additional features as per the license, everything is going to come over under vCenter server. If you connect individual ESXi host, you are not going to get certain features. Okay, only few features. Similar way, right click on VM, the vCenter server VM. Here only how many options we can do: power, you can do control alt delete, you can create a snapshot, you can open a console. I can do edit settings as well. These many options only, nothing else. For the same VM, if I right click on vCenter server, what are the options I'm going to get? Just right click on the same server under vCenter server. Right click. Okay, wait, it is going to load. It is loading, just wait. Whatever the action you are going to create, you should get the get started phase. If you are not going to get started information, that in the sense some action is going on the background, don't double click or don't worry about that. It is going to take some time to get access. As soon as you select the object, if you're getting, click OK, close. Let's wait. Or else select other VM, which is 2008 R2. Yes. Select that. It is not allowing because the vCenter server is a little busy with the actions, because vCenter server be installed on a lab environment with less resources. So we need to accept certain delay in performing certain actions. If the vCenter is busy, it is not allowing to perform certain actions. No need to worry about this. Once resources increase, you are going to get access. Without getting this getting started phase, you are not in a position to perform any action. You are not going to click on any other icon. Okay, so this is the way we are going to add. This session is going to close in next 5 minutes. No issues. We are going to continue next session. What are the options are available? Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to explore next session. We are going to explore for ESXi host, what are the options are going to come into picture. For virtual machine, what are the options are going to come coming into picture. In day-to-day activities, what are the actions we are going to perform. To understand that, we need to explore what are the options are available in vCenter Server Management Console. What are the limited features are available if you connect same ESXi host directly to from VC client or web client. The same ESXi host, if you are connecting to vCenter server, what are the options are going to come? Okay, what is the advantages? Okay, to connect access a server through vCenter server. There are different features are going to come into picture once we add the ESXi host to vCenter server. The same features will not be available if we access the same ESXi host directly to VC client. Here main intention is I can manage all ESXi hosts from a single console. For example, I'm able to see there are 2 ESXi hosts. If I want to see those 2 ESXi hosts individually, I need to open 2 sessions. Okay, even I can open 2 sessions, but the limited features only available. I cannot perform certain actions if I connect individual ESXi host. So here, what is the options are available under vCenter server? We are going to explore different options by choosing the ESXi host, what options are available, by selecting the VM, what options are available. Here, why it is taking too much time is because of vCenter server, we loaded with a different components with a less resources. That's the reason it is taking time to load an object. Okay. Finally, we achieved what is a virtual machine. We selected the virtual machine. What is virtual machine? See, the picture representation also is highlighted. Okay. Right click on this virtual machine. No problem. It is going to take some time. No issues. We are going to see what are going to come into picture. What we are going to do here, we are going to say load a different VMs to perform different actions. See here, I can do different options. Whereas if I connect individually ESXi host, very limited features. See here, I can create a clone, I can create a template. There are different options. One of the major administrative tasks is clone and template. We are going to discuss on the same in next sessions. These are the options. If you connect individual ESXi host, I am not going to get a clone and template option. Okay. Similar way, even if you connect individual ESXi host, certain features available. I am not in a position to create a cluster. I am not in a position to do any administrative tasks which are related to centralized management console. That's the reason we are going to connect vCenter server to perform majority of the actions, okay, in day-to-day operations. We'll see in next session about vCenter server and options, ESXi host, explore different options, VM different options, okay? For now, take care, bye.